Hello and welcome to another My NT&D marriage video. Change. We all know that they don't like change, and they probably know it too, but I don't think going into a relationship really occurs to people on the spectrum how much change is involved. I can't speak for everybody, I can only speak from the point of view of my partner, my husband. He really wanted to be in a relationship. He wanted to be like everybody else. He thought he was like everybody else. He wanted the house, the job, the car, the family, the wife, the kids, the lovely house. He wanted all of the usual dreams that everybody else wants. But unbeknownst to him, it was going to be harder for him than he realised. And obviously more than I realised. And so for him, everything about our relationship was about change. Before me, he was a bachelor living in his house. He did have some housemates there, but they were kind of gone a lot of the time, and it wasn't like a living relationship where the expectations are different. He did have clashes with the people he lived with because they weren't as neat as he would have liked. He would go away, come back and find that the rubbish had not been emptied and things like this, and that would annoy him. But fundamentally, for the most part, he went to work, he came back, he watched TV, sports, and he went to bed and repeat. So for him, his life was pretty cruisy. It was going exactly how he wanted. He controlled the place, he ruled the roost, it was his place. They were renting with him, so he kind of called the shots. And he had a fair bit of control and a lot of routine. Then I come along and everything just goes out the window, because all of a sudden, for a starter, having me there was complete change, but all of a sudden I had expectations. I didn't understand why he didn't want to sit with me at night time and talk, why he didn't want to go out with me much, why he didn't want to walk with me when I went for walks or do any kind of exercise or kind of anything together. And the one thing that he liked us to do together was for me to sit next to him, not next to him, but away from him next to him, while he watched sport before he went to bed. And he thought that was cool together time, whereas I was like, no, this is really boring for me. So obviously I come along, and any kind of request, comment, whatever that I make is seen as combative to him, and he can't handle the change. He's instantly thrown. Having that extra person there who wanted, autonomy, a different routine, who wanted different things, cooked differently, ate differently, hung out the washing differently. It was all such a shock to him. And he hadn't known going into this relationship that was even going to be a thing. And obviously nor had I, because I didn't realise he was on any kind of spectrum. And then when he moves to my place, that's more change. He's now suddenly got a job, a new job that pays way less than his old job, and he has to do an hour travel there and an hour travel back. Whereas before, his company actually picked him up. They picked up a whole bunch of people and ferried them to work in buses or utes or whatever. And all of a sudden he's driving to work in this crappy traffic, city traffic, awful, stressful, agitating at best. And so that's extra change for him. Then he's in my house and it's kind of my rules, and we're doing sort of the things that I want around the house, so he doesn't really have a lot of say or control about that. And that stressed him out. Then of course, children, the ultimate stressor of all. Even people who are neurotypical struggle as parents, because children throw spanners in all the works. You suddenly can't sleep, you can't go out unless you bring the whole kitchen sink with you. They go through the terrible twos, and they've got little minds of their own and they talk back and they do cheeky, naughty things. I mean, children are crazy, let alone you're on the spectrum and you never thought about what it was going to be like to have children, and all of a sudden they're in your life and you're like, oh my God. It's a hurricane. Every day is a new hurricane. And then, of course, they're trying to navigate parenthood, not necessarily doing a great job, not necessarily doing a bad job, depending on who it is. But either way, it's stressing them out, and they're not used to not having control. So that, in my case, he didn't want to follow my rules even though they worked. He wanted to sort of try and do it himself even though his way wasn't working. And that was causing all sorts of headaches and more drama, more stress, more trauma, more aggro. The situation gets a little bit crazy. And then we get married, there's more stress in that, a wedding, yikes. Even though I was pretty cool with our wedding, it was a pretty quiet affair. I was hardly stressed myself. It flowed and goed like most things that I do. But still stressful for him. And then I'm not working, so we don't have that income. We have new family situations to contend with. Everything about us has been about change. His whole life with me has been about change and having to adapt. So I move in with him, he's got to try to adapt in a couple of years. He moves in with me, he's got to get adapted to something different, and that takes another few years. Then he has children, that's a whole nother adaptation. And that, I think, would be the hardest change of all, because children, they evolve as they age, and there's new adaptations to be made. Like now they're moody, broody teens who hardly want to speak to you and you can't get much out of them, and you try to have a conversation and you just get grunts. And we've got a 20-year-old that we're trying to employ and it isn't working. So it's just new stresses, one after the other after the other. So I'm sort of thinking about it now and thinking, it's kind of no wonder that he spent most of our relationship stressed out of his brain because everything is stress, everything is change, everything is a lack of routine or a change of routine every so often when you get into a relationship. And now that the children are getting older, I have noticed that he is less stressed than he used to be. Obviously he's still concerned because of our ASD son, and he's really quite struggling with that. He's struggling to be nice about it and struggling to sort of connect with our son in any kind of meaningful way. But overall, I think the last few years things have started to settle down and there's been sort of less change, and I can feel that he is feeling that we're falling into a more comfortable routine. And I would definitely say that we've fallen into comfortability, and we do have nice routines and nice patterns now. So I feel like that's sort of helping things settle down. Obviously we still have issues and disagreements and such. That's how marriages work. But I think that maybe over time, and maybe even in retirement, for example, there'll be maybe, like once he's retired and there's the change that he goes through and accepts, he'll probably fall into a nice sort of comfortable routine then. So yeah, I'm just sort of looking back at it now and thinking, it's no wonder things have been so complicated, because everything about getting in a relationship is change. And I don't think, as I said at the start, that they're fully aware of that. For a person on the spectrum, I don't think going into a relationship is really something they've thought about, like in the future and what happens here and what happens there, and I think that they think that if they just yell long enough and loud enough, they're going to have control back again and the routine will fall into place, and it doesn't happen that way, and life is really stressful. So yeah, knowing that now he's on the spectrum, it all makes sense, and things are starting to settle down, which also makes sense. But yeah, how goes it for you? Have you ever thought about this change? Has your partner ever thought about this? If you're on the spectrum, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever wondered when you go into a relationship what it's going to be like? How you'll cope with meeting your partner's needs, dealing with children, or not. Some people might have arguments about wanting them and not wanting them. Work, marriage, family, the whole shebang. Drop a comment below. Love to hear from you. Just a quick video from me with regards to this subject. But anyway, as usual, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video.